it's hard because I know there are liberals who believe in us and believe in what we've been doing and what they are doing. And some of them are going to be mad, you know, they're going to be saying, Kathleen, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this? Some of them are just going to be sad. And I just, I am talking to them, but I'm talking to everyone in the province. You know, we gotta think hard.
She's wiping away tears. This is Kathleen Wynne, has just conceded defeat in the Ontario election. Back on Angry Beaver Radio. This is a victory party, I guess, because Kathleen Wynne has conceded that she will not be premier. I'm Daniel. We're joined with Mike and Mark. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing just fine, Daniel. It's glad to be back on the show again. It's been almost 1 year now.
Exactly, yeah. 1 year. I think last time we were on a Canada Day special, Canada 150. Now we're right into the Ontario election that's happening on Thursday. We've got 4 days away. Angry Beaver Radio, we had run for years as a show. And Kathleen Wynne was always one of our number one topics of discussion as she's ushering in the New World Order in Ontario. And now she says she will not be premier. So this is the most desperate I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think you, Mike, mentioned quite a while ago that she was not going to be premier again because of the destruction she's done to Canada and keeping us in debt and just raising all taxes on property and everything else. So, yeah, it was a foregone conclusion that she wouldn't be back.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured it was going that way because of the power plant scandal, which cost us in the millions and millions of dollars when it was all said and done.
Billions, when it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the one of the most disturbing things, I think, is how little people are paying attention to the Ontario elections and how much power the Premier of Ontario actually has. Like, they're dealing with billions of dollars every year. And hardly anybody's even talking about the Ontario elections on the street.
Yeah, because the Liberals have always gotten their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak. So, you know how it goes.
Yeah, for the years. Well, I guess it's been decades now. It's been, or 15 years at least, of Liberal reign.
Yeah. So it's time for a change. But if you're going to the other two, you're not going to get a lot of change. You're just going to get a lot of talk and rhetoric and everything else too, right? So
with the word liberal, Mike, excuse me there, people think liberal as being liberation to me. And that just doesn't happen nowadays, or probably never did for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then the reason that Kathleen Wynne is so desperate in that clip is because she's announcing that she will not win. But to me, this is like the most desperate power grab she's ever done. Like almost these crocodile tears that she's saying she's not going to win premier, but she wants everyone to concentrate on their own riding, elect Liberals, so that they can hold the power still. Because if it's a minority government, then the small party, whoever the small party goes with, becomes the majority. So it's like basically Kathleen Wynne senses the opportunity here where she could have the power where either if NDP or PC wins, they're still going to need more votes, you know, if it's not a majority for any government.
Yeah, I was looking at that too, but then I was looking at what if the NDP and the Liberals were maybe in cahoots together to make one big party?
It is possible, yeah.
Yeah, it could be possible because she said she's still fighting.
Mm-hmm.
She's still going to be out there doing it. So
exactly.
She's conceded in one way and she's still going in another.
Yeah. But it could also be possible where she could join with Doug? Because you saw it, like Doug is sort of the progressive side of the Conservatives is sneaking through every so often, including on climate change, where Doug Ford in the last debate said he believes in it. He believes humans cause climate change.
Well, when you look at the statistics, humans only maybe contribute a very small amount, but then you got other factors too. You know what I mean?
But I don't know if you can go by statistics. You have to go by your belief. Do you believe?
Yeah. Well, that's my statistic.
That's the problem. Yeah.
You're trying to actually go by stats in science.
Wow.
If you don't research, then you just know only one thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because once you start looking into the power of carbon, then it stops looking so bad.
Yes, and they've been throwing around the carbon tax for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm. Which is the one reason why it would be good. The main reason, I guess, why it would be good for PC to win, Progressive Conservative Party in Ontario, just because they're the only party against the tax.
Yeah,
of the big parties. But
I wonder what our Prime Minister Trudeau thinks about carbon tax.
Oh, he wants it.
Yeah.
He wants
he's
it.
with Israel, so of course he would want it.
Rolling in dough, and then because the carbon tax basically creates a slush fund that the politicians can use for whatever pet project they have. Maybe fly to a private island, or Trudeau's always got global trips, so he needs to fund that because it's a big price to pay, a huge carbon footprint to travel around the world and have all this fun.
Yes,
that Trudeau has.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
The last one, though, sort of backfired on him. Did you see the one in India where he's wearing all the traditional clothing?
Right, yes.
And then they said that Indian people don't even wear that stuff, like on a normal basis, everyday basis.
Oh, that's just costume. That's all that is.
He's wearing like a Halloween costume.
For theater or something.
I think Trudeau said, he said that he wanted to follow in his father's fingerprints.
Criminals in government.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was just actually looking up some Trudeau pictures today because I was remember when he had a V for Vendetta phase? Remember that the Guy Fawkes mask?
Right.
Trudeau styled himself to look like that with a goatee and
yeah.
It was pretty funny, but I think it was just a phase because you can't find too many pictures of it. But there are a few. He had a bit longer hair.
Yeah.
That was like when he was a young MP. Now that he's been in power for so long, you see that there's really no change, except for like an increase in the identity politics stuff and culture wars.
Well, it's the old saying goes, politicians are like diapers; they got to be changed every once in a while for the same reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's sad that liberalism has turned into that too. That it's like so focused on your identity. Things you can't even really change, right? How you're born, your skin color, and your sex and stuff. Like you can't change that stuff really, unless you accept all the transracial stuff and transsexual
I think most
stuff.
people, I think most people have. They've actually accepted it as the norm. It's like saying, "Oh, I want to have three kids, one of each."
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on.
One of each.
Yeah.
I guess you see the people should be for real liberty or for real, like libertarian viewpoint. People should be allowed to do what they want, but the thing with the trans movement, I guess, is that can you ever really have a change? Like could you be a boy and become a girl, or will you always just be a transsexual? Is there ever a complete transition, or you're always in the process of transition that never ends, a never-ending transition?
That's the way it looks like to me.
Yeah, which is to me that's part sad because then it's like then you're definitely an other. Because you know how the whole thing with this whole identity politics is the different pronouns, like Z and Zay and Zer and like words that don't even exist.
Yeah.
It's like that's the sad part is that a lot of people that are considered transsexual would rather be called, her or him, however they identify as, rather than to be called this other category, the third category you're talking about.
Yeah. Like in the Philippines, they got these guys they actually call them lady boys.
Yeah, I heard
lady
of that.
Boys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you get really confused when you see a picture and you're like, wow, she's hot, And all of a sudden, she's not that hot at all, So you got to be careful when you dive into something like that,
Well, it is Pride Month, so I guess that's where this we've sort of veered off into that topic. Mm-hmm. Which is always a crazy festival. It's basically the New World Order comes to
Yeah.
to any
Can't
major
you
city.
can't you have pride in the way you are,
Mm-hmm.
whether you are gay or not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. As long as you can identify your group, you have to belong to an identity group, I think, for pride. Because if you
But
say
it,
you're proud as an individual, then they'll just say you're selfish.
yeah,
But if
true.
you're in an identity group, then you can be, except for like white or European. I don't know if you can have pride in that, but
How
any
about
other category you
how
can.
about yeah, how about straight pride?
No, yeah, that's not allowed.
That's
Stuff
not
like
allowed. You
that isn't
cannot
allowed.
say that. I've
No.
tried that already. You can't
Straight
say
pride.
that. They think you're nuts. There's only gay pride, and then that's it. There's no other.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is where they get away with it, is because they say that their rainbow is so big that like basically everything is considered gay pride, and they're even including the asexual people, or people that like don't have sex at all, any sexual desire, are considered in the LGBTQA rainbow or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them. The scariest one though that they want to add is the pedophile, but I guess that's a New World Order plan too.
Oh, they'll probably add that sooner than later, probably.
As a normalized thing, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we used to have flyers when we were with Toronto Truth Seekers talking about this type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
the pedophile ring, and who was actually behind it, who started
Exactly.
it all.
Those are the days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember John. I think Gospel of Truth, or he's got, I forget what his YouTube channel is, but he used to make a lot of the flyers. Remember he brought the table out too with the wheels.
Yes.
He actually just contacted me saying he's got doing a protest next week in support of Tommy Robinson. You know Tommy Robinson?
Oh, yeah.
He had just been arrested in UK.
In the UK, yeah.
And he basically alerts a lot of stuff on Islam and terror, I guess, the terror wars.
Yeah.
So they threw him into jail, contempt of court kind of thing, and I guess they're doing worldwide now. They're doing marches. So basically, this, if he can survive the jail thing, he gets out in 13 months. I think was his sentence for reporting on these grooming gangs or whatever in the Britain, or rape gangs or whatever.
Yeah.
That he'll be more popular than ever, because you see some of the clips in UK. There's like thousands of people out all chanting "Tommy, Tommy, Tommy Robbins."
Exactly.
Chant like a soccer game almost.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, pretty much.
So that's
Plus
where it gets dangerous to like keep arresting a guy, because then he becomes like the martyr of the movement, or like Hitler spent a huge time in mountain jail. I'm not saying Tommy Robinson's comparable to him, but there's a similar circumstance, or even Nelson Mandela. It's like you can spend a huge time in jail, and then as long as there's huge political movement behind you, when you get out, then you become like the president or the
like with Hitler there was when he got out.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing, because Hitler kicked out all the Jewish bankers and all that kind of stuff that were bringing basically Germany down to practically nothing. Mm-hmm. And then when Hitler got into power, he brought everybody back to work, and he had places where workers could have their lunch and have 40-hour work week and all that kind of stuff. So in the late 30s, early 40s, even though the U.S. was suffering badly from their problems, Germany was actually right up at the top, and it was one of the prosperous countries in Europe at that time.
Mm-hmm. And the other amazing thing is how many endorsements he got from like the elite of society back then. They all endorsed him, and then they turned on him within like less than 10 years,
Yeah.
Like a huge amount of them, or maybe not even all of them turned on him, but they definitely they all endorsed him. Like Henry Ford, the biggest businessman in the U.S., Margaret Sanger, the woman that ran the Planned Parenthood and all the eugenics thing.
Yeah.
Even Gandhi wrote that letter where he calls him his friend.
Yeah. So it's if you can get a leader like that, he said he had to go to dictatorship to get him out of the financial problem that Germany was in at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only way he could do it. He had no choice but to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's possible, but then also any excuse you can get for a dictatorship, because basically that's supreme power if you're trying to run a thing. You don't want to
Yeah.
have to go to other people to get their say, or get their okay on something. You want to just be able to do it.
Yeah. So basically, Germany was a very prosperous place during the late 40s the late 30s and 40s there, and he was one of the most popular leaders in that time.
Yeah,
he was
multiple times the Time Man of the Year and
Time Man. Yes, exactly. Nowadays they just give it to anybody, right?
yeah.
Nobel Peace Prize. They just give it to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Might as well just give it to us angry beavers. We deserve a chance.
They did do that one year, didn't they? They give it to like the activists or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like the year of Occupy. It's like
Year of
the
Occupy,
international
yeah.
activist activists around the world. And it was just like a silhouette on the
A silhouette, yeah. Yeah.
But that was like a strange time because basically when that Occupy movement happened, it was sort of changed my whole view on activism and political activism, and it had already been on a rocky ground after what I saw at the G20.
Yes.
And then when Occupy happened, I realized that there's like basically these movements are controlled by outside forces that aren't that are the establishment basically. They're not activists.
Yes.
And then
especially when you're staying at these 4 or 5 star hotels,
Exactly. And then
'Cause
now
Mark-
we have the Antifa problem, which is like probably a big problem in activism. Where if you tried to do an activist movement, you'd probably get infiltrated, either by agents or by Antifa. And some of them are probably the same. They're agents working for Antifa
Oh, sure.
or like agents that have Antifa leanings.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because
So, Mark-
did you hear about this Hamilton thing?
What happened?
Hamilton riot?
Wait a minute.
I'm not sure.
Because there was about a month ago, or they said there was over 100,000 of damage, and it was like basically like 100 Antifa black bloc just walked through like a rich area of Hamilton and smashed all the stores and everything.
Right.
I heard about it.
They did a G20. So then they arrested a bunch of guys this week, and a bunch of them are the same guys from the G20. It's insane. They're still doing it 8 years later. They're still think they can accomplish something by breaking a window like at a luxury store.
Oh, look at our G20. They were allowed to do that because the police and them were in cahoots with each other.
Yeah, which doesn't accomplish anything. Except for help the police get more money, more budget. That's the only thing that
There you
helps.
go. Why do you think we pay taxes for?
It's ridiculous.
It is. And to mention that the Bilderberg conference is actually next week.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah,
because
in
wasn't there
Italy.
also going to be a G7 in Toronto
At the same
or in
time.
Quebec? Oh, at the same time.
Basically the same time, and Trudeau's going to be there.
Yeah, that's well coordinated, so they fly back and forth. There's probably a few charter jets right from Quebec City to Bilderberg.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, exactly.
Do you know where it's being hosted this year?
I forget the name of it. If you go to Press for Truth, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, he'll have the proper place.
It looks like he's out in BC now. He's moved out there.
Yes, he's moved there a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. The good part is he's right at the center of the cannabis business, I guess, of Canada.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It looks like it's booming out there from what he's showing, and then we see of course the government trying to put in a monopoly scam. Government of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that part's interesting. The other interesting thing about BC, I've never been out there, but they've got a carbon tax already on. So you see, like they say, the price of gas here is a lot, but out there it's like 20 cents more even than here. So that's pretty scary.
Yes, it is.
For people that drive, probably not many people can afford to drive anymore in Toronto or GTA.
No, it's just
anyways.
chaotic with all the construction around, and so people just basically take transit.
Yeah.
Or
And then
cycling.
the other sad thing that they've got, I know in Vancouver, is the drug addiction. One side of Vancouver where it's like, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
And that's now happening in Toronto. Apparently, I just saw this report from I think it was a Genuine Witty with pictures of right near Ryerson, actually right on the other side of Dundas Square. You know where that Tim Hortons is?
Okay.
One
yes.
of the buildings there, I think it was called the Public Health Building, is now a needle exchange building.
Oh yeah.
And it's now apparently the whole, they've taped off the whole front of it because there's so many needles, like, strewn about. And it's pretty scary. Like, they've taped off a whole bunch of the plant things. Not that there's any plants growing in them, but, like, I guess in the dirt, people have thrown all kinds of syringes and cans and who knows what else. So I guess the whole point is that the needle exchange doesn't work, really. It's like you can go there to get a fresh needle, but they're not bringing the old ones back. They're just throwing them on the ground.
Yeah.
Right in front of the building, which is insane. And then there's Ryerson on one side, Dundas Square on the other, where every tourist goes, and then there's even like that elementary school not that far from there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's not even addressing the real issue. They're not getting people off of it to get people healthy again. They're just keeping people on it, and all. It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it's true. And it just normalizes it, and then it's a place you can go to get a fresh needle, I guess, if you don't want to use your old one.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's part of the opioid epidemic and all that.
Well, you won't catch me over there anytime soon.
No, but we would basically, if we were in the old Toronto Truth Seeker days, we'd be down there every weekend. Well, we'd already have to deal with it.
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll see, because I know the Servant Hood's usually set up there during the Pride Week, right on that corner, the one where it's now the Works or Needle Exchange thing.
Yes.
So I'll see if they set up there again this year.
I thought they were at the same area that they were at before, like they've always occupied that one corner.
Yeah, I think most weekends, but then just on Pride Weekend, they usually move over to the other one.
Right.
Just because it's World Pride, and they the other corner usually they like to spread it out. I think because they usually gave Christ Forgiveness Ministries the other one. There is still the street preachers are still sort of going, and you see the Info on Islam still going.
Yeah.
And you're seeing
the last time I was down there on the corner you're talking about, Daniel, there was a bunch of black people out there preaching hate for white people.
Oh no! Oh yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, now those guys are right across. Those are the black Hebrew Israelite people. They claim to be the real Jews. And that like basically people like pale Jews are not real. You know, like that the real Jews are black, and that yeah, basically those guys have a lot of hate. I know the guys you mean. They're with robes and they're almost like a cult because they're in every major city, and they're like they dress in like that way, and they actually have those guys do have a lot of biblical knowledge. You know, they can just spout off quotes from the Bible and stuff, but I don't know if they can actually live it. And they're mostly Old Testament type guys, like not.
But I've only seen them there once, though.
Oh, they're usually there on Saturdays or Sundays. I've seen them a few times. But they hide behind that wall, like right where the Tim Hortons is, and so they're talking to themselves because they don't make a big crowd around them, you know. Like
people go by, people try to talk to them, and you just can't talk to them at all.
No, exactly. That's why I don't know why they do it. They're just like. Because they're not really gaining followers, they're not really entertaining anyone, they're not really, nobody's really even listening to them except for a few words because you can't really listen to them. It's just like spewing hatred and
you can't debate anything. Like if you're not Jewish, then you're nothing.
Yeah, and the white man's the devil, and the one thing they allow is a few Hispanics in. I think a few Hispanics or natives or. But other than that, they claim that like Israel is in Africa and all this.
Oh yeah.
And that there's all these the tribes of Judah or whatever. All the tribes of Israel are all different, like African nations or whatever.
I'm not religious or anything, and I'm glad because I don't want to be put in a category and just criticized and put to the test every minute, that I talk about my religion or something. So
yeah,
I don't want to be. It's just like being in a web, and you can't get out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that's changed a lot is the look of that area now, Yonge and Dundas. You notice
Yeah, I've
it?
been there for a few years, so.
It's gotten a lot of different, more buildings seems like, and more. I guess it's always going to be more ads, but just growing up, I guess, because like
but
even
sure,
Ryerson's got skyscrapers now and stuff.
Oh, for sure. I don't go down there very often, but last time I was there, it was like I think last year or whatever. I went down and just went down Dundas Square, looked around. Everybody just coming and going as they normally do, and it had the odd people giving out flyers or whatever. But other than that, I didn't bother sticking around.
Yeah, just a big shopping area and.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it wasn't during the weekend anyways. I think it was during the week.
Yeah. So weekend might be a bit more hectic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's been shootings down there.
Yeah, lately, there have.
I haven't heard about the shootings.
There's some shootings.
Right at Dundas Square right there on the other side.
Yeah, the side with the actual square in it.
Yeah.
Somewhere near those fountains. And
where we're not allowed to actually set up table or anything like that.
Yeah, can't set up a table, can't hand out flyers, but you can walk around with a gun probably, and who knows?
Yeah, obviously. But you have you have the black part that you can stand on. But then you got the sidewalk. You can stay there.
Yeah.
But you can go on the other side.
Right.
Part of it.
Because they're security patrolled, which is why it's crazy how that you can have like. Dundas Square has so many cameras, security patrolled, so many cameras, and yet I don't even know if they have any suspects for this shooting.
Yeah.
And basically almost all the shootings in Toronto are unsolved without any suspects. And it's spreading out now. Like there's Pickering was 4 people shot in the Rib Fest yesterday.
The Rib Fest, yes, I heard about that one, yeah.
Which is just outside of Scarborough, so that's not like a GTA. And then you guys in Mississauga, you guys have had violence there too.
We've had a few so far. And
the most notable, I think, might have been that bombing in a restaurant.
Yes.
Because that's a rare thing to happen.
Yeah, an Indian restaurant. I think I know exactly where it is too.
Is it a troubled neighborhood or is it?
Not necessarily. They did. It said it was just a random thing where 2 guys came in. They looked like they had something in their hands, and I guess they went in and did whatever they had to do. But you don't see anything else after that.
Yeah, that's the weird part. How this stuff can disappear. How they can just announce it and then they just make the story disappear. Like you never hear about it again.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything more about it at all afterwards.
But you'd think there'd be some kind of crime, because I don't know if you can just walk into a place like that. Like you'd have to prearrange it. Like you'd have to have your bomb ready and everything. And
yeah, I think so.
Just do it a spur of the moment kind of thing. I don't think so. I think it would have to have been targeted either at the business or somebody eating in there or something.
Yeah. Or they came in prior, checked the place out and stuff like that, and said, "Okay, we can do it this way, that way, and the other."
Yeah. Case the joint. But
exactly.
That's the first time ever that I've heard about a shooting in a restaurant in Mississauga here.
Well, it was actually a bomb, makeshift explosive.
Yeah.
Well,
and then they put it in the news for like a day or two, and then they took it out, I guess, just because no one died. I think maybe if some people had passed away, then they might have had it a few more days. But
yeah,
it's because the news cycle is so quick now that like these stories just disappear after they get announced.
Yeah,
and it's like it seems like a terror kind of thing, like to bomb a restaurant. People are in there eating and stuff. It's like that would be terrorism.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's say I guess over 4 people if they're killed, and they either call it terrorism or an active, an active shooter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They'll call it something. But since nobody died, they're not going to call it terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that it was not on the table. It was.
Yeah.
I know by the news in Canada in the past that there might eventually be terrorism coming to Canada, and we were told about that in lamestream media that possibly there might be something happening here, like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to relate it to maybe what happened with the bombing at the restaurant. I'm just wondering. I know I tell people it's just going to be a matter of time because the government's telling us.
Yeah.
That this is going to be happening in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it also relates to their policy where they're now letting anyone that claims to be a refugee in,
yeah.
and then they get processed later or whatever. It's we're gonna check them out later. We'll let them all in, so you don't know who they're letting in.
Exactly.
Could be an ISIS fighter, or it could be
they're not even checked for background or anything. So
yeah, exactly. And then they claim they're doing it later, but then who knows when that is? It's a few years later, a few months later. And you see you guys seen the clips on I think it's Faith Goldie on where she's on Roxham Road, somewhere near Ontario-Quebec border. I think it's a border between Quebec and New York. And basically, there's just nonstop people coming through. That's where they're coming through in luggage, and the RCMP's carrying their luggage over, and it's crazy times. Basically, there's a live stream you could see where she's out there just filming, and then basically a bus comes up, and then after the bus, 2 vans come up. The bus is letting off people, and then 2 vans come up full of people. They let them out, and then they have to line up. And then as they're lining up, the RCMP guy at the front of the line has to tell each of them, and they probably hardly any of them can even understand because he's saying it in English or French, that anyone that steps over this line gets arrested. And everyone lining up, he has to tell them each of them individually, that everyone ends up crossing the line. Nobody doesn't cross the line. And then what they call arrested is you just cross the line, and then they carry your bag and escort you to an area where then you're then taken to a place where they consider it the immigration holding area.
Right.
You just get loaded onto a bus because but basically they're saying they're going to now have to build a border there. It had just been the end of a street where people had just walked over. Now they're going to have to build a whole border checkpoint there.
So this whole border crossing and everything like that's been really revved up in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Before, years ago, even 10 years ago, you never used to hear too much about it.
There's people making money on it, too. The people that drive the buses and the vans are, selling the ability to get to Canada to these people.
Yeah.
They're Americans making some money on this.
Oh, of course.
There's always a few. I guess that's the immigration law business, immigration lawyers and all that.
Mm-hmm. But isn't our prime minister or crime minister, whichever you want to call him, isn't he part of the problem of letting these people in?
Yeah, I think it was his policy or his tweet. He said, Canada will welcome you.
Wasn't that his dad, his policy too at the time?
It might have been, but I think they probably had more, it was more stringent. This is more open, I think.
Yeah.
Because even back then, you had to still go through different things to get citizenship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But now it's turned into even more of a free-for-all, or it's Canada is now open to people, you could live here your whole life and never have to be Canadian, basically. That's how they want it. It's a sanctuary city.
Yeah, because Canada does not have a distinct society anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost it. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I guess the only argument is if we ever had it to begin with, but...
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because the natives, basically, the natives would be the only other group that lives in, the area of the borders of Canada that could do it without ever having to be Canadian.
Right.
In the past, but now it's, basically, anyone...
That's
and
right.
Now it's, I guess, because that's part of the message when they turn the world into a reservation. The native reservation was just the foreground to what they want to do with all of society.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's if you had to show your ID just to exit or leave the reservation, then it's they'd like to do that. Just to leave your neighborhood, maybe you have to show your ID or.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to track you. That's part of the Presto thing in the public transit, is they want to track all your movements, like from your name, so they know your location and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so hard, as you might know, if you want to take a trip to the Philippines, which our friend does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. There's so much red tape, paperwork, added paperwork
Mm-hmm.
to go from country to country. But if you're in a sovereign country like Iran or other Middle East countries, and the U.S. and Israel are bombing you, and then you're able to go to Canada, you're able to go to Europe, to get out of the war-torn area, and so if you're in those kind of countries, you can come freely. You don't have to have a passport or
Mm-hmm.
a visa or anything to come to another country. They say, oh, just come on in, like come
Right.
to Canada
Yeah.
to live in our dictatorship here.
Yeah, and they'll give them a loan too, but then they say you have to pay back the loan. Because that's what I wonder. I see, like, majority of people you'll notice walking around downtown are like they're begging for money are white people. But I did notice that there was a few like Middle Eastern women or women, with that are wearing like a hijab in
Mm-hmm.
a few public transit stations, sometimes around Union Station, that have these signs saying like, "I have 3 children, please spare some change," and they're just holding the signs. And then that's what I wonder is, are these people just trying to be able to pay back the $80,000 loan or whatever that they've been given?
Yeah.
Because they've been given a deadline to you have to pay it back within 2 years. So now they just need to find whatever change they can get just to be able to pay back this $80,000 like thing that's hanging over their heads. Because it'd be nice to have $80,000. Like, I think anyone would want that. But then would you want to have to go through your whole life having to pay it back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for newcomers coming to Canada. They're encouraged to come to Canada, probably to get into that financial debacle.
Because then they have to work for their whole lives, basically. Just you get it once you get into it. Yeah, you have to. You have to like basically, and then your money goes to the Canadian government.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, why don't instead of holding up signs like that, why don't you just get a job and pay it back that way? It'd be a lot better than just having a bunch of loose change.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like the lowest rung of society, and I guess that's the part that upsets me with the white privilege narrative. You know how they always say this part of the identity politics is white privilege.
Oh.
But then why is it that the majority of people begging for change, like in the lowest rung, are white?
Yeah, really.
But that part I've never totally understood. But
yeah, exactly.
I do think it has something to do with the pride issue too. Because like if you're in another group and you have pride, you're not gonna beg people for change.
Yeah.
It's part of racial pride. So there could be some people that are very poor that are not white, but it does definitely, if you did a census, which is why there is no census of poor people, because you find out they're almost all white male, older white male, who they say is the enemy, right? That's the enemy.
Yep. Hey, maybe what are they doing right? They don't have to pay taxes. Everything, all the loose change that they find, it's all theirs. They don't have to pay into the system, so they're not slaves. They're not
that's
slaves.
The greatest
we are.
That's the greatest
slaves.
spin on it, is that those are the highest beneficiaries of white privilege. The true free man. That's the only way to be the real free man, I guess.
There you go.
You can't really have you have to like avoid signing everything to really be a free man, I guess. Because almost everything requires a signature. If you want to live somewhere, if you want to do something, you need to sign something. But
yeah,
the only thing that doesn't require a signature, I guess, is to like live on the street and beg for money.
No, but you're basically of no fixed address.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way to be a free man, I guess. I had actually heard of someone mention Robert Menard. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah,
Free man on the land guy. Because I hadn't heard of that guy in years. I haven't seen him doing any videos or anything. But apparently he's on Facebook getting into arguments now.
Get into arguments, yeah.
I heard it from Toge Tote, the Mohawk guy I know from Mohawk Nation News.
Right. Yeah.
Which he doesn't write for right now, but he used to. And they just had like a big argument about the government, and it's almost sounding like Robert Menard is, the way his argument was sticking up for the government. And he was just bringing up all the stuff with the residential schools and the reservations and all this.
Yeah, right.
Actually, his main point was about the Indian Trust Fund, which is huge. Because basically Canada claims to have worked a deal with the natives where they bought Canada, and that all the money is being stored in a trust fund, like that's supposed to be collecting interest forever.
Right.
But the scam is that natives can't access it, and that basically can't.
Maybe that's why the natives are in the position that they're in.
Yeah,
for the last,
it definitely is.
Few hundred years.
It definitely is, because the only ones that have the power are like the ones that become the corrupt governments of the different reserves.
Yeah.
Because they're only, and I shouldn't say they're all corrupt because I don't know all of them, but majority of them seem to be, because the only way that the chiefs or whatever of the reserve get anything from the government is they have to basically, play ball with the government. You have to do what the government does.
Exactly. I believe that.
Accept
sure.
a new world order. And then that's where they have, like, some of the highest paid people are the chiefs on the reserves. Some of the highest paid, like, government officials in Canada are chiefs on, like, small reserves, because they don't have, like, many huge reserves anymore.
Yeah. But if they're the highest of the native people, why don't they help their own people?
Yeah, that's the sad part. It's because basically they have to become, like, corrupted, and it's the only way. Yeah, the only way to get to the top seems to be that you have to turn against your own people, almost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in kissing somebody's boots just to get privileges and all that kind of stuff and get more money, and I don't believe in that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. If you're for the people, by the people, for the people, that's where you should be. If the government doesn't like it, that's too darn bad.
Exactly. That's where the Angry Beaver Radio has got to stand for some morals. You could say maybe we're angry about the fact that the whole world is based on lies now, and people are, like, immoral, I guess.
Yeah, they've been demoralized pretty much, and
that's where crime is rampant. Because for a conspiracy to be a conspiracy, there has to be a criminal element to it.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just, it could be someone's plan, or, someone does a bad thing, but real conspiracy involves crime.
Yeah, especially with that, you can't make something out of nothing. There has to be something there.
And crime by multiple people, too.
Yes.
Like, George Soros seems to be just funding this, but the people George Soros is funding are the ones it's basically turns into a huge conspiracy where you track the money for this whole the whole immigration matter we were just talking about, and it tracks back to George Soros, a few foundations he funds.
Yeah, exactly.
The Open Society and all this.
Yeah.
Soros Foundation.
Yes.
Tides, and there's a few of them, and then you can't blame it all on Soros, though. It's like Soros is one guy to it. He's the funder of it, but then he needs, like, hundreds of people under him that are pushing it forward.
Oh, for sure.
And then it becomes a conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly.
A global conspiracy in that one.
See, it's like any job or whatever you do. If you have the backing of, let's say, other employees, you can just sit back and just reap in the rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. Just let everybody else do it for you.
Yeah.
You can go out and play golf or do fishing. What the hell? You already got people working for you, doing what you want. So might as well enjoy your life. Mm-hmm. That's probably what he's doing.
Exactly, yeah. And
Sure.
so what we're gonna have to do with Angry Beaver Radio too is to start uploading some more of our archives, because we've exposed all this stuff in the past. We had the George Soros and Justin Trudeau and Kathleen Wynne and all kinds of scams. But what we're gonna need to do though is restart the YouTube channel, because I guess it got taken down, and probably because of controversial content, or the copyright strikes. I know on our channel we had actually had that whole interview up. Johnny Beaver put up the one with George Soros from the 90s. Remember the one where he admits being working with the Nazis and everything?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they taught him everything he knows about business, and it's scary because now he is in complete denial about it. And it's an interview he did, it's like 20 years ago or whatever, but because I just saw some articles this week where they're saying how it's a huge conspiracy theory just to think that George Soros worked with Nazis.
Yeah.
When he admits it in interviews, in past interviews. That's the spin. That's where they're...
Yeah, that is the spin, yeah.
Fake
Actually,
news.
The word Nazi is a Jewish term.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it comes from, the Jews there. So
yeah,
they can call anybody this, anybody that. So,
but it's the National Socialista.
Socialista, yeah.
And
where did that term come from?
That's like a party he belonged to when he was, after he grown into a man and stuff like that. Which and he a lot of that particular time he didn't know what he wanted to do, because he basically wanted to become an architect or an artist. So he went to Vienna to see if he could go to Vienna to show off his artistic nature. And he got turned down a couple of times when he tried.
And it also seemed like a big thing they wanted to be was the alternative to communism, because communist was the big political movement then.
Yeah, he didn't like communism.
And you weren't really allowed to be capitalist. Yeah, he didn't like communism, but that's the part where he's socialist, because you weren't allowed to really promote capitalism, or they were still, they had communist elements to them, but that's why they're socialist, because they wanted the government to own all private business and run all private business.
Yeah.
And that would definitely take out like a lot of the rich people, but then the government officials then become the new elite class, which is the same thing that happened in the communist or whatever, Soviet Union.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I said before, when I mentioned on one of our previous radio shows, who owns everything in life, the education system, the newspapers, the television media, the pharmaceutical companies, who owns them? And they are Jewish owned. And the owner of Facebook there, Zuckerberg, he's Jewish as well. And then you have all these problems with Facebook about people wanting to talk about certain things, wanting to send videos or audio clips of something, and then their audio and video clips are taken down just shortly after, or blocked. They can't even send them. So you kind of wonder who's controlling all this, who's doing this. And I don't think it's you or me or the other average Joe. It's the ones who are running these social medias.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. And the one thing, I wouldn't say they're all owned by Jews, because I think the Twitter was owned by a Muslim guy, or a guy from the Middle East at least. And so there's always going to be like elite in like all the cultures. But I know what you mean with the prevalence in the media, because that you can see full thing of memes that came out the past few weeks. Because did you hear Elon Musk, the Tesla guy, wants to do a site where people rate the media, a media rating site for to say if they're fake news or not, or like the honesty of the reporting. And then there's huge things of memes, or because he's putting out these things on Twitter saying like, "Do you know who owns the media?" and with like a question mark.
Yeah.
And then there's all these memes like, does Elon Musk really want to find out who owns the media? Because it's really only a few guys, right, that own all the major networks.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're almost all, dual citizens of America and Israel.
Yeah.
That part's true.
Yeah.
And there's a huge caucus in the U.S. Congress that are also dual citizens, America and Israel.
Yeah.
That's true. So you just have to look up on the internet the most influential Jews in America or the world, and they'll give you a list and they'll tell you what their job is or what their job was, and it's they're in almost every facet of our media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're probably more the Zionist side. Because if you read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, they even admit that they'll have to destroy a lot of their own people just to get their agenda through. Because basically, like, a lot of people will blame all the people of Israel or all Jews for this, but really it's only a few of them that are at the top. And
because you get, for example, the Three Stooges, a very famous comedy team in the past. You got the Marx Brothers doing all these different radio and TV shows, and they don't seem to be bad people.
Mm-hmm.
They are Jews. They're all Jews, but they bring a comedy and laughter side to life. But of course, doesn't mean they have certain ideals of what they think of their own religion. Not religion, but it's not a religion. Jewish. It's a.
Well, part of it is, I guess, or the Hebrew religion is connected with it, but then it is like a people, I guess, the Jewish people. And then the book I read, Zionism in the Age of Dictators. This is a book that sort of changed my whole point of view on a lot of things, and it talks about how the Zionists had made a deal with Hitler, and I guess the influence of Germany and Hitler in the founding of Israel, because for money, basically for money, you could buy your way out of Germany before he started all the concentration camps and everything. So a lot of the richest Jews got to leave, and they bought their way out, and they were to go directly to Israel. So like basically Hitler was running a thing where he was making money sending the Jews to Israel, and it was helping him out because part of his thing when he first started wasn't to like destroy them or take them all out. It was just to get them out of Germany. The part they say that where the genocide happened was towards like the late 30s into the 40s. Where they started camps or whatever, rounding them up. But before that, you could have your own decision to leave. And a lot of them stayed, right? Or they couldn't either they couldn't afford it, or they decided, this is our home, we're not going to leave.
Well, weren't the camps set up for a different reason, not just for prisoners?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them were like labor camps, slave labor, like you'd make them work on stuff without paying them. Which they needed because there were basically they needed all the men in the army because they were spread out, the Germans.
Yeah, because they had everybody in his army. He had Jewish people, he had Sikh people, he had all sorts of different people from different backgrounds.
It was totally multicultural, because that's part of this Zionism in the Age of Dictators, is that Hitler had made the deal with the current Palestinian leader at that time. At the time, to allow all these Jews to start coming through, like it was all part of the same deal. And the British are involved too, because they're always up there, the Turks, because they had controlled Israel for. Well,
Britain was involved. France, Russia at the time, it was basically Hitler's enemy. Yeah. So by the near the end of the war. So Britain and France and Russia actually flew over and destroyed a lot of the German cities. They were killing men, women, and children left, right, and center. Saw video and pictures of that, and it was just horrendous. I think that was the real uh, like genocide or whatever you want to call it
Hmm.
of Germany. It wasn't 6 million Jews or anything like that. That was fabrication.
Hmm.
But it was on the west side that they were killing all these people, over millions of people. So I think that's where the Holocaust was.
Hmm. Yeah,
But nobody will talk about.
anytime there's a huge amount of people dying like that is like that's like a genocide or Holocaust.
Yeah, because Hitler put a peace proposal on the table, and England and everybody rejected it.
Hmm.
So basically, Hitler was forced into war with these countries.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
and they locked the guy up for his whole life. I think the guy that flew over there with the peace proposal,
yeah,
Rudolf Hess,
yeah,
who they claimed also like co-wrote his book, the Mein Kampf, when they were in jail together.
yeah, hmm
They had all been part of the original. I think it was called the beer hall thing, where they like all the government officials were all drinking at this party, and then they took it over. They ran in armed with guns and
yeah,
started like declared that he's going to take over Germany. And then
yeah,
they round them up, arrest them, and then yeah, within like what is it, 10 years or something, and then he's elected leader or becomes the chancellor or whatever.
yeah.
You can look up Mein Kampf, and it's translated into English.
Ah, yeah, and they
I've
just
read-
started reselling it in Germany. I remember it had been banned.
But anything that's written in another language more recently has to be scrutinized because you don't know how much editing there is that has gone on
Yeah.
in that to make it look like only Germany is bad.
Mhm.
U.S. and England, no, they're good people. So I only read just a few paragraphs, but I had to put it down because it was written by somebody translated in English, which I don't like.
Mhm.
I'd prefer the original book in German translated from somebody from in German.
Yeah,
real
yeah, it's
German.
true. It's probably just harder to find.
Yeah.
The other one, yeah, the one that I just mentioned too was the Zionism in the Age of Dictators. That one's good. I think it's Lenny Brenner. So it's written by a Jewish guy, but he basically explained, like he explains how the Zionists have always operated, and not necessarily in favor of the Jewish people as a whole. That they've actually always felt the way that that there would that some of them have to be sacrificed. Some of their people have to be sacrificed for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is a scary way to think. That it's your own people. It's that, and that's like almost like a self-genocidal way of thinking.
Yeah, I agree.
And
there's another. It's a documentary. It's called Hellstorm.
I don't know if I saw that one.
Yeah, it's really interesting talking about what happened in World War II and stuff like that. It gets kind of graphic and stuff like that.
The other one I didn't realize was the 6 million figure actually came out of World War One. Like you can find a huge amount of World War One things coming out of the same Zionist groups that worked this deal with Hitler, saying that 6 million had been killed in World War One. 6 million Jews.
Yeah. Well, Hitler actually fought in World War One. He was a very decorated soldier at the time too, because he fought in the areas where like you wouldn't want to fight in. He didn't care. He said he had to do what he had to do for his people, and that's what he did. He was he also did like a news runner type of thing, with taking letters or something and from one place to another. And stuff like that too, and it was a pretty dangerous. He got wounded a couple of times.
Right.
He spent like 6 months trying to recuperate from being injured, but he wouldn't sit down. He wanted to get back with his people. He wanted to get back and fight for the cause. That's what he wanted to do. And he had that gift where he says, "I'm going to get back out there. I'm doing this for my people." And I want to get out there and I want to fight alongside my soldiers. So he got
back to the trenches.
Medals of bravery and all this kind of stuff too, right? And so he's pretty decorated soldier. Just like Audie Murphy, that actor. Audie Murphy back in the 40s and 50s. Uh, you know the movie To Hell and Back?
No.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it stars him in real life, where he joined the military, and he became one of the most decorated U.S. soldiers in history.
For
Wow.
doing what? For killing people?
Well, well,
I think
free-
that's the American Sniper has got that, don't they say? He's got over 700 kills or something. One man.
well, I don't know if he was like that or anything like that, but he was an actor too, like in westerns and all that kind of stuff.
Ah.
Audie Murphy.
Very famous Western actor, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I guess we'll have to relaunch Angry Beaver Radio because
Okay.
we'll have a lot more weeks ahead, a lot more content.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
We
sure.
could try to get some guests on.
Yep, Suzanne Posel's out there.
And then since now we've got complete freedom, since if we're just going to be posting on online, YouTube or whatever, then we can just talk about whatever we want. We got no network.
Yeah, exactly.
There had been the time we were on Truth Frequency Radio. That's where some people might have heard of us.
Yes.
But other people might be hearing us for the first time, so greetings.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, we can talk about GlaxoSmithKline, which was in a building right across from the hospital, which I was in.
The
this
Trillium Hospital, the Trillium.
year.
Yeah, maybe we should do that on the next show. We could do a whole medical theme.
Sure, no problem.
Because there's always a push on vaccines and
Oh, every day.
GlaxoSmithKline. Yeah.
Now they got a poster up of shingles vaccines now.
Oh, no, not shingles. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, there's a vaccine for everything, so you don't have to go anywhere else. Just get that, and that's it. Yeah.
The only one we haven't got is a truth vaccine for
The truth vaccine.
the lives
Oh,
continue.
I think we've taken the vaccine because we're hallucinating right here.
The red pill. We've been red pilled.
Red
Hallucination vaccine.
Before I have dinner later, I'm going to take my dinner vaccine. I already
Bon
have lunch
appetit.
once. Bon appetit. Ouch. There it goes. Lick 'em, stick 'em, and prick 'em, I say.
And on that note, maybe we should sign out here, Angry Beaver Radio, for election week in Ontario. We're recording here on June 3rd, election June 7th. You guys, any predictions before we go?
Oh boy.
Not for me. I don't think I'll be voting, but what do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to go to the voting ballot, and I'm going to look at who's there.
Yeah. See
I
who you
voted
like,
Libertarian.
and
Yeah.
possibly none of the above.
Yes, or maybe just make it a vote of non-confidence.
Right in? Yeah.
Just look at it and just fold it back in and just throw it in. I
Cool.
don't think anybody has ever done that. I'm not sure. But
The only trouble is if they'd go totally electronic. That might be this year. I'm not sure.
well, the last
We'll
one
have to
was
see.
paper.
Yeah. But you know the way they want to move it, just for rigging the ballots reasons. But
Yeah.
so we'll know by next week. We'll know who's rigged it. So hopefully we'll do either show next week or the week after. Hopefully, and
Okay, sounds like a good idea.
we'll speak to you guys soon. Yeah, this has
Hey.
been Daniel, and we got Mark and Mike signing off. Angry Beaver Radio.
Okay, have a great
out.
day, everybody. Peace out. Take care.
If we can have good, strong trains.